Hi everyone, welcome back to A Town Called Yarn, obviously not a real town. This is episode 12 of my bi-weekly, as in every other week, podcast where I talk about knitting, crochet, yarn, all of that kind of stuff. Like I said, episode 12, so it's been 2 weeks since I last spoke to you, which is normal. I mean, I've already said the bi-weekly thing, so the frequency isn't really the most interesting thing about this podcast, I hope, anyway. Like, let me know if the most interesting thing is that it happens every 2 weeks. It's been a pretty good 2 weeks. I had some time off the week, not the week of filming, the week before, which was nice, kind of a bit of a rest from work. And it was my dad's birthday of that weekend, so we went out for kind of lunch. And my sister revealed to my parents that she's pregnant with her second child, which I've known about since August, but that was exciting, and I'm excited to be an uncle for the second time, although I'm not sure, I don't know if it counts being, like, I'm still just the same uncle, but I'm excited about that. We're all excited about that. And it also means I didn't craft before she had her first child, which also means now I can like plan and like make stuff for a child. Obviously I've been making stuff for my nephew, who's 3 next year already, but a newborn, like, that's fun. There'll be some cute pictures to take from that. But I wasn't really planning on talking much about my sister being pregnant. It's not really my news. So I think let's crack on. I have a few different things to talk about today. So I've only got 2 whips. One of those being the MKAL, which I'll do in its own section again, like I did last week. Just so if you want to avoid spoilers, you can skip that section. So other than that, I only have one other whip because I've been pretty focused on the MKAL, which I'm happy about. But I'm also kind of excited for that period to be over and to finish the MKAL so that I can play around with some different projects without feeling like I'm focusing on something. But I'll talk about that a little bit more when I do the MKAL section. But I have been really enjoying it. What I've then also done is, because I'm coming to the end of the MKAL, and I don't have a load of projects, I don't have a lot of whips on the go, because I kind of closed those down, not close those down, I kind of didn't cast on as much because I knew the MKAL would be coming. Now that that's coming to an end, I now want to cast on some things. So what I've done is I've picked up some yarn out of my stash, and I've got some kind of pattern ideas, kind of a couple for each grouping of yarn that I thought I'd share. I'd talk about my plans, and then it would be good if you've got any kind of, like, if you prefer one pattern over the other, if you've got any feedback on, if you've done any of the patterns, or also if you've got any kind of pattern recommendations, that would be really fun. So we'll do that after the MKAL section. And then I think that's everything to say up front. So let's crack on with my works in progress. So the one whip that I've made some progress on, and there won't be a whole lot to talk about this, or I suppose there's a little bit, is my dad's hat, which, if you watched before, I've been working on this for a couple of months. Not solidly, but like on and off for a couple of months. This is going to be a Christmas present for my dad, and it is using what was originally a Sockset by Ainsworth and Prin, which is the yarn company of the Knitting Shed, who you might know online. I bought this at the 2023 Southern Wool Show, and it is a 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon blend, and 100 gram, 20 gram Sockset like normal. And it came with, I've literally just explained. So this brown here was the contrast, if it were to be socks, and then this blue here, which I've got here with the kind of brown speckles, is the main colour. And what I've done is I've used the brown for the brim, and I've done about 5 inches of ribbing, and then I went into stockinette. So it's just knitting the round on 16-inch circulars, and these are not Nike, they don't make knitting needles. These are Leica, I think it's pronounced, 4mm. I did the ribbing on 3.5mm and then went up to 4mm for the stockinette. And if you can, let me not get tangled, that is the progress I've made since I last spoke to you. So not loads, because like I said, I've been mainly focused on the MKAL, but I am now up to the decreases. So I've done all of the stockinette I'm going to do. Originally, I was going to do about another inch. However, if I put this on my head, you will see why you might not see why, but I'll explain why. I'm not doing another inch. So once the rib's pulled up, and me and my dad and my sister, we all have kind of a very similar skull. So if you see on the top there, I'm kind of at the point where now it'd be nice to do decreases, and then it'll be quite nice and fitted to my head. Which means it'll be quite nice and fitted to my dad's head. So that's the plan anyway. So I've just got to do the decreases, which I will do of an evening. I mean, if they go as fast as they did last time, because I've already made it. This is the Sockhead Hat pattern by Kelly McClure, but I'm not really doing the sock head part of it. I'm just using the maths and then the decreases. The actual amount of knitting I'm doing is much less because that's a much more slouchy hat pattern. But I'm really liking how it's turning out. Now I've knitted more of this in stockinette. I really love the way this is kind of speckled and the way it goes with the solid brown. And I think my dad's really going to like it and will really get quite a lot of wear out of it, which is the main thing. And like I said, that's a Christmas pattern, a Christmas present. So that'll be done in plenty of time because I'm filming this on the 25th of October, meaning it's exactly 2 months for Christmas, and it will not take me 2 months to do an evening's worth of decreases, unless, I don't know, there's like a nuclear apocalypse or something, in which case this will not be a priority. This is one of the small bags by Butternut Handmade. If you've watched my channel before, you'll know that pretty much all of my bags are by Butternut Handmade by Conchetta over at, I'll say Butternut Handmade one more time, and this is one of the small ones which I really love. It's really perfect for a kind of single skein project, and especially for a hat. I think it will also be good for socks, but I've never knit socks before, so I can't attest to that. And even though there's only one, that's the end of my whip section, I'll have more whips in future because one, I'll cast on more things inevitably soon, but also I'll be able to focus on some other projects. I've put maybe a couple of rows into one of my blankets, but to the point where you need to get a microscope out to kind of really see the progress because it's fingering weight moss stitch. So I'll show you that once I've done a bit more on it. And that's all the progress I've made on anything else. So what I'll do now is I will talk to you about the MKAL. If you are wanting to avoid spoilers for section 2 and 3 of the MKAL, and if you're still managing to avoid spoilers, well done, because I don't know how you're doing it. You must just not be on the internet very much because they're all over the place from what I've seen, especially on my Instagram feed, which is fine, I'm not overly bothered. But if you're trying to avoid spoilers for clue 2 and clue 3, and I'm going to talk a little bit about clue 4, but I've not started clue 4 at all, then jump ahead to the time I put up here, or there's chapters down in the description, like there always is, and you can click to the next section, which will be called Plans and Pattern. It will be called something else. It'll be the one after the MKAL section. I don't know what I'm calling it yet. So, if you're still here, then you want to hear about the MKAL. So last time I spoke to you was the 11th, so clue 2 had just come out, and I don't think, I'd not started it, I definitely hadn't, and I don't think I'd finished clue 1 at that point, or I might have just finished clue 1. I've been kind of solidly about 3 days behind each clue, which I'm actually really happy about because I thought I was going to be finishing this in like February, and I'm actually probably going to finish it in the next week or so, which I'm really happy about because I do think this will be finished by the next time I speak to you. However, I've not made a lot of progress on this over the last few days because I got a little bit frustrated by clue 3. So I'll talk about clue 2 first, and then I'll talk about clue 3 and why I got a bit frustrated, and we'll go from there. So, clue 1 was, it's kind of, that's the wrong size, that's why. Clue 1 was this bottom section here, where you had these semicircle shapes that you then joined together with these garter stripe tabs to get a full kind of piece. And I think the last time, I think I was still doing this final garter stripe bit the last time I spoke to you. Clue 1 went quite straightforward. It was slightly different construction than I've ever done before, and it was a little bit more fiddly than a lot of things I've done before, but ultimately it was kind of, it was just knits and pearls with some quite straightforward increasing. Oh, and section 1 also had this first row of, I think they're called bubbles is what he calls them, these. I struggled with these a bit, and I don't know if I'm massively happy with all of them, because I think there's just something quite stressful about, so the way you make these is you knit a stockinette section, which is that, for me, the contrast colour is this kind of blue variegated section. And then when you're knitting the next row, which is in the main colour, which is this golden colour, you like drop a stitch off to kind of be able to pinch the stitches close together when you knit. You kind of knit down 8 rows, which I just found quite stressful, because you're having to kind of just hope that you've picked it up right and then drop a stitch and pick it out. So it went quite slowly, but I do like the way it looks, and I definitely think I got better at them as I did, because you do 3 rows of those, so I'm happy with that. Then you had a choice of doing eyelets or brioche, I'm not American, and I chose to do 2 sections of brioche. Originally I was going to do 1 section, and I thought I was just going to do an eyelet section, because I can't tell you how long it took me to do these brioche sections. It took me so long, because it's, for what is essentially 8 rows of knitting, you're actually doing 16 rows of knitting. And it's a lot of yarn over, kind of knit through 2 kind of things. However, seeing it like that, I'm super, super happy that I did that. It's not the most even tension-wise, but I think it will block out for the most part. And in the idea of transparency, I made one mistake, which wasn't even really a mistake, well, it was definitely a mistake, but I dropped a stitch in brioche, and I tried to pick it up and I couldn't, and you can see it here, it's that one there. So you can see I dropped it about halfway through. I kind of then picked it up, and I'm fine with that. If you can see that, you're too close to me, and like, I'm not gonna have a conversation with you about brioche if you're standing that closely to me. So I'm happy with that section. I'm happy with how it turned out, and I quite like brioche as a technique. I like the way it looks. I just think it takes forever, and I think if I was to do brioche again in the future, I just don't think I'm doing fingering weight brioche very often. I think I'd really love some like DK or like Aran weight brioche, maybe like even a brioche hat in like a thick kind of yarn, I think would look really cool. But I don't think I see a lot of fingering weight brioche in my future, unless I do another MKAL, in which there probably will be some. And then, so that's everything on section 2. And then section 3 is this border section. Well, no, it's not a border section, we're not done. It's these kind of short row triangles, which I've started, and as you can see, I've done 5 of them. I just find these so fiddly, because it's a lot of kind of, you're doing a lot of knitting for like not a lot of progress, because you're doing short rows. So I just found that a bit, I'm happy with how they've turned out, and this is my first time ever doing short rows, and I'm quite happy with how even they are and how neat they are. I just could have done with, I'm really nervous that I'm going to drop some needles, so drop some stitches even, so just want to pick that up. I think it was just getting to this section after doing a bunch of brioche that I felt was really slow. What I wanted was something that was quite straightforward and fast after section 2, and what I got was something that was brand new and quite slow going. So I put this down. I did a little bit at the start of the week, and then I decided to put it down, and I'm going to wait until the weekend. So I'm filming this on a Friday, so tomorrow and the Sunday, and just kind of crack through it over a weekend, because what I need to do is kind of get in the rhythm. It's not, a lot of the other sections, what I've been doing is kind of picking up of an evening and just putting a few rows in, whereas this, I forget the technique when I do that, and I find I end up getting the maths wrong, and I had to, this final triangle here, I had to rip out and do twice because I completely missed one of the steps as part of the row, so it wasn't even joined, it was like separate. So I'm happy with this, and I'm not overly bothered that I'm behind, because now that all the clues are out, I can kind of just go at my own pace. And like I said, I think I'll finish this still in the next 2 weeks. So I think the next time I speak to you, I should have a finished and hopefully blocked version of this. because having looked at Clue 4 a little bit, I've not looked at it loads because I don't want to kind of see it fully until I kind of start doing it. Having looked at it though, there's quite a lot of decreasing in it, especially the first part, so I don't think it will be loads and loads of knitting. Hopefully not anyway. But this is the amount of yarn that I've got left of, so actually I didn't say, the yarn that I'm using was from a kit from Stephen and Penelope, and it's dyed by Twisted Ambitions Yarn, who is I'm assuming that's Oklahoma based dyer, and this is what I've got left of the first two. So this will get me a good few of these triangles done, and then I'll break into the second two. I'm not concerned, but I do feel like I'm going to have a lot of yarn left. I know in the next clue that I think there's a bit where you can kind of keep going until you've used as much yarn as you want, and I'll try and use as much yarn as I can, but what I might do is get bored and I might just stop after doing a few rows of that section. I'll see how it looks. And I think there's a thing I have to say about this. I'm enjoying it. I'm happy I've done it. I've learnt a lot. I've kind of become a bit more confident knitting through doing it. But also I'm excited for it to be done because this is the most focus I've put on like a single project in a long time. The last time I was this focused on a project was like when I was a beginner crocheter, and that was because I was just I just had yarn for one project and was just working on one project. Whereas these days I kind of like to have a few things on the go. I like to have something really easy, something a bit more complicated, something that's kind of a mixture of knitting, not a single project mixture, but some knitting, some crochet, whereas this has just been really my focus for the majority of 4 weeks. And that's all I have to say about the MKAL for this week. So this is, again, another button at Handmade Bag. This is actually the first one I ever bought from her. And I really like it, and it fits. It's kind of the perfect size for a 4-skein project. It wouldn't do a 5-skein project, and a 3-skein project is probably a bit better for it, but it fits a 4-skein. So a lot of shawls and stuff, and I think this is referred to as the medium-sized bag on her Etsy. And I'll have her and everything I talk about is linked down below, and it always is. So any patterns I talk about, yarn I talk about, everything's always linked down below if you want to go and check out her bags. She's got some fun new patterns, new bag fabrics recently. So there might be a purchase, because it is payday next week, there might be a purchase on the horizon. So, MKAL plans. I don't know what I'm going to call this section. It's not a yarn haul because I've had all this yarn and I've shown most of it in videos before. So this is kind of what my next cast ons are going to be. And I've got 4 of them, which is a lot and it's a bit silly to be honest. But I'm not sure which one I'll cast on when, and I won't probably cast all. No, I definitely won't cast all of these on this year, but they're yarn in my stash that I know I want to get to before other yarn in my stash, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through the yarn I've got, and then I'm going to talk and show about a couple of patterns that I found that I think I want to do with these yarns, and then use this either as inspiration if you've got similar kind of yarns and you're looking for pattern recommendations, because I'll show pictures of all of them, or feel free to tell me that actually you made that edit, you hated it, or you really, really like that pattern, or any kind of alternatives with the yarn I'm talking about. And that would be great, and we can kind of have a bit of a chat in the comments. So let me take a sip. And then let's crack on. Actually, let me put this label back in this bag before I lose it. So, yarn number 1. So, earlier this year, actually, where is it? There it is. Earlier this year, a few yarn dyers did I think they call it a night at the movies, where there's like a number of yarn dyers that they sell yarn on the same day, and it's kind of all based off a theme of movies. So they might do like horror movies, like I think they are doing horror movies actually now for Halloween, and they might do kind of comedies or various things. And then one of my faves, Jess over at Pigment and Ply, I've said that like we're friends, I don't know her, but sorry about that, did this yarn, which is called A Girl with a Pearl Earring, which is from a film that I don't know about. and there's obviously also a painting, but it's just this really gorgeous, like super variegated, super like mixed yarn that I got on there, 100% superwash merino base in DK. And I think I want this to be a hat. I want to wear this on my head. So I've got, and what I'll do is I will have them up on my phone. So if I'm looking down, apologies, but I'll also put the pictures up here of the patterns that I'm considering for these. So I found 2 patterns. So the first is the Hipster hat by Petite Knit. So I've knit 2 hats, or I'm knitting my second hat, which is obviously the Sockhead by Kelly McClure that I spoke about earlier. I want to try something a bit different, but I know that what I probably want is something quite simple still. I don't wear a lot of hats, and I want, especially with this yarn, I want the yarn to sing, not the pattern quite as much. So I think the Hipster hat will do a great job of that, because it's quite a simple, straightforward ribbed pattern. And I think the decreases on it look quite neat, which I'm interested in. Whether I'd be able to do them that neat is another question, but I like the way it's kind of got quite a lot space for a large brim. And I think even though this is quite, all of the samples are done in solid colours, and I think typically you would use a solid colour for something so kind of with that kind of texture, but I think this will still look really nice in the ribbing. I think it's a 2x2 rib that will whole way up, and I think it would look really nice. I feel like I'll definitely make one of these at some point, whether it's in this yarn or not. And I don't think I have anything else to say about that. So that is the Hipster hat by Petite Knit. The other hat that I'm thinking about is called the Dustland hat by Stephen West. So I'll put a picture up again. This is the opposite of what I just said, in that I want the yarn to do the talking, because this is quite a textured hat. And he does say in the pattern recommendations to use a solid colour to show it. However, I think that this would still show up the pattern quite nicely. I think it would show up a little bit subtler, but I think where it's textured, I think you can still see texture through that. And this is quite a high twist DK, like you might be able to see there. So I think it will show up the texture quite nicely. And this will give me something a little bit different, because it will let me work on some slightly different kind of patterns. The one thing that I'm umming and ahhing about it is the brim. So it's got quite a short brim, which a lot of hats do. I see a lot of knitted hats have this kind of short brim, and I'm just not sure whether that suits me or would suit me, because I just have quite a big skull. So I think having something so kind of small there might look odd, whereas like a wider, thicker brim I think suits me better. But who's to know unless you try? So those are the 2 patterns that I'm toying between. So if you've got any thoughts on that, let me know. I'm sure that some of you probably have knitted one or the other, because they're 2 pretty popular patterns from what I can see. And let me know. Again, I'll probably knit both at some point, but it's just which one I do now. And I'm excited to have a DK hat, because both of the hats I've knit so far, and only one of them's one I'm keeping, but they're both in fingering, so I'm excited for a slightly quicker knit, and also something that will be a bit kind of fluffier and warmer. And I'm also just so excited to use this yarn. It's just so pretty. I always think that if I ever get into yarn dyeing, which I'd like to do at some point, that Pigment and Ply might have to send a cease and desist, because I just feel like she does something with colour that's the exact way I think about colour. So maybe I won't get into dyeing, because maybe someone just dyes exactly how I want already. So that is number 1. Number 2, I'm also thinking is going to be a hat. It's quite a different yarn though. This is a fingering weight skein by Woollen Witch that I bought this year. So not the year just gone, we're still in 2024. This year's Southern Wool Show. I previously bought a 50-gram skein in merino, I think, of this yarn to make a dice pouch. And I liked it so much that I was genuinely thinking about it for about a year, until I went back and bought another skein. So this is a 100-gram skein in there, 40% Shetland, 40% blue-faced Leicester, 20% alpaca base. And it's 100 grams of 350 meters. So it's a slightly denser fingering weight, but it's not, I think it's less meterage because of the density, not because of the thickness, because if you look at the thickness there, it very much feels like a fingering weight, and it's got quite a high twist to it, which I'm also interested to see how that knits up. The two patterns that I'm thinking of for this are, the first one is called the Bankhead by Susie Gourlay, I'm assuming, like gourd, I think it's Gourlay, which is a really wonderful, quite simple pattern that has the, I don't know which way I'm putting up pictures, I think I'm putting up pictures here, has the wider brim that I was just talking about that I think will suit me, but also continues the ribbing slightly up through the hat, so it's got a slightly more texture going up there than just a normal stockinette, which is interesting. And I think I really like this. I wonder, the pattern I think shows it just having as not a folded brim, which I'm interested in, and then maybe I could play around with trying like a, what's it called? What's the kind of cast on? A tubular cast on, because I've never done that, and I do want to start trying some different cast ons, because so far I just do a long tail cast on every time, which actually it works really well. It's not been an issue for me, but this feels like the kind of pattern where maybe a tubular, or maybe I think there's something called a cable cast on, although it's not cabled, so I don't know why I'd do a cable cast on, so maybe I won't do that. But I'm excited to try different cast ons, and this feels like the kind of pattern that I could do that with. So that's the Bankhead by Susie Gourlay, and I think it would look really, really nice in this colour. I don't know how much wear I'd get out of a hat in this colour, but I just know I want one, and even if it's just me sat around the house with a cold, if my head gets cold, then I'm happy about it. There's just something about orange, blues and whites that just really does it for me. And I think it would look really nice in this pattern. The second pattern is by Andrea Lowry, and it is called the Harlow. So I've knit one Andrea Lowry pattern before, which is the shift, actually, is that true? Yeah, the shift cowl. I don't know why that's relevant, but this would be, I've never knit a hat by Andrea Lowry. This is an all over rib, but it's not shown as folded again, but obviously you can fold up whatever you want if you want to. The thing that's different about this is it kind of comes to more of kind of a flat peak by the looks of it in the middle, almost like those kind of cat ears, rather than coming to a kind of crown, which I'm interested in. I'd be interested in how that looks on me. And I think it looks fun. And I think, although this is obviously variegated, it's not like super heavily, there's not like 100 colours in there. So I think it could look really cool in this pattern. I think it would look cool in both. I think, again, I'll probably knit both of these patterns at some point. It's just which one I want to knit first. So let me know. And again, this is a fingering weight skein at 350 meters. There's thousands of hat patterns that you can knit in this. So let me know your favorite hat pattern for fingering weight or for DK, because I quite like knitting hats. And they're also great gift knits, so even if I don't think it will suit me, they're quite easy to give away to people, especially as I come from a family that all have the same skull. Apart from my mum. My mum has a tiny head, but I also don't think she'd wear hats. So, project number 3 is again DK, but this time I have 3 skeins of the same colour. So, this, I have shown this in a video before. I think I probably bought it in like June, maybe July. This is by the Crafty Bird, who is another dye. I mean, I love all these dyes. I love a lot of dyers. But it's another dye that I really, really enjoy. And this is on their Cozy DK, 100% Superwash Merino, 100 grams for 225 meters. And this colourway is called the Family Madrigal, which is from a reference to Encanto. So this is, again, one of those really kind of super variegated, all the colours, but in a really kind of muted, kind of moody way, but there's still kind of some bright pops, like that kind of teal at the top. I really, really love this colourway. However, I'm not sure what I use this for will end up staying with me, because I think this would look really good on my mum. I think my mum would really love this colourway, so I might end up knitting it and giving it away. And I've kind of thought about that a bit when thinking of the patterns, but I've made sure they're things I would want as well, because I might want to keep it. And I've already got a Christmas present for my mum, so I don't know if she needs to. She also knits herself, so she doesn't need like loads of knitting gifts. So the first pattern that I'm looking at is called I need to have this on my phone. It's called the Barbara Shawl by Gregoria Fibres. This is a really straightforward, actually it might not be, I've never knit it. It's quite a simple, textured, and I think it's just with like knits and pearls, I think it's just kind of garter bumps to give this kind of textured pattern that's then just kind of quite a long scarf, which I like the idea of because, I don't know why, just because then it's a scarf. I think it will be, I've knit a couple of shawls now, maybe I've knit one shawl. I've knit where it's not like just long, I don't know how to wear it quite as easily, whereas this, I think I know how to wear because it's more typical scarf shaped or scarf vibes, while still having some interest to it. And I think this is really pretty. And I think this will look really good in a variegated yarn. However, I think it will look really good in like a natural undyed, kind of natural colour of the sheep kind of yarn as well. So it might be that I wait and do this in that kind of yarn. Might be I make two, I don't know. But I really, really like this look of this pattern. The second is, again, a similar kind of shape. And it's called it's like a long scarf. And this is called the Rib Scarf by Lisa Hands. Hannah's? I think it's Hands. Lisa Hands. And this has some really interesting texture to it. And it's all done just using knits and pearls. So by the looks of it, it looks like it's kind of broken up sections of rib with then this kind of path of pearl, of reverse stockinette, I suppose, that kind of sinks in. And I just think this looks really cool. I mean, and again, it might look, it would look really good in the solid, but I also think it would look good in this. I think the texture on it is defined enough where you'd still be able to see the texture in this colour. And I might be wrong, but also I think the shape looks fun even if you can't see much of the texture. And then you still get to see all this yarn, which I think the fun thing about using yarns like this is that even if the texture doesn't show up as much, you've got loads of colour there, so there's like something interesting to look at. And I really look at that. Also, this would look really good in like an undyed colour of the sheep kind of wool. And those are the two patterns that I have thought about for this set of 3 skeins of DK, which I really love. And like I said, that's from the Crafty Bird. Big fan of her yarns. And then the next is a 4 skein pattern that I'm looking for. Again, DK. I went on a bit of, most of my stash is fingering, but weirdly I picked up lots of DK. And I think that's because like all of my projects at the moment are fingering. And I'd like something a bit quicker and a bit thicker, especially because it's getting colder. Although it's still very mild for October and I'm not enjoying that. It's been about 17 degrees all day and I want it to be about 7 degrees because I enjoy the cold, but I guess I'm not complaining too much, although I am. That's literally all I'm doing. So the next is I think I said a 4 skein project. And this is again from Pigment and Ply. Last year I did the Pigment and Ply advert, which is what this is. It's a corner to corner blanket that I did using the advent throughout the month of December, and I really, really loved it. And then in like February, I think it was, she did a pre-order for her yarns, so you could buy full skeins of the colours from the advert. I could have bought a skein of every one, but I was sensible and didn't. So instead I picked up 2 colours and I bought 2 skeins of each colour in, and I was a bit bougie and I treated myself to the 80% Superwash Merino, 10% Cashmere, 10% nylon base, which was a slightly thicker DK. It's like really, really plump and really, really squishy. And the 2 colours I got were this one, which is this kind of autumnally variegated. It's mostly kind of oranges and yellows, but with bits of green in there. This is called La Viuda Romana. And then also 2 skeins of a solid called Wilding Muse, which is that's coming up, I think the light's shining off it. It's actually kind of this green, there we go. It's ever so slightly green, and that yellow at the top is light. It's not the actual colour of the yarn. Maybe that shows up slightly better. And that's them together. I really, really love these together, and I knew when I bought them I wanted them to be in a project together. Just a 4 skein DK project isn't as easy to find as I thought it would be. So the first project that I'm thinking of using those yarns for is the Summer Stripes, Summer spelled S-U-M-M-A, Striped Shawl by Meiju Kallio, and I really like the way that this kind of showcases both colours, which is what I'm looking for with a project with this, where it's kind of, there's a section, it almost feels like there's two sections, but then they blend together. I think this is a really fun shape, and I think it also looks like, again, it will be quite wearable because of how long it is. And I really like the look of this. I think this is, again, this is kind of all, and I suppose it makes sense that I'm saying I will probably make all of these at some point, because I don't know why I'd have picked them if I thought, well, I won't make it unless I make it right now. But I really like the look of this pattern. And it looks quite straightforward. It looks like quite an easy knit with some kind of mostly garter with some eyelet textures in between. And I think it's knit tip to tip. Actually, that might not be true. No, I think it is knit tip to tip, so not too many stitches on the needle at any one time, which I'd also really enjoy. The second pattern that I'm considering is the Field. It's not called the Field Shawl, but like it is a shawl. It's Field by Maxim Cyr, so Max the Knitter, who's one half of the Lagos On people who have that company with the yarn. You've definitely heard of them. This does the same thing in that it's kind of got two sides, so you can really celebrate both colours, and then, but they still kind of blend in. And I really like the look of both of these. I think the Summer Stripes one I'd find a bit more wearable, but I like the kind of bulky and the size of the Field. It's kind of a bit bigger. So I'm unsure. I don't know which one to make. And I don't know which of these will be my next cast on. I have a feeling it might be my DK hat. I think that might be my next cast on, something that I can kind of get on and off the needles. And then one of the two shawls might also be a cast on. I want to, if I do a hat, I want to make sure it's off the needles by the start of December, because I'll be using, I mean, I could just buy new needles, but I'll be using my 16th circulars for my Advent project, which I will talk about more in a future video. My Advent's come actually, but I'm not going to show you it because obviously it's an Advent and I'll show you it in December. But my Skein in the Stitch Advent has arrived, which I'm excited about. So I might cast on a hat first, so I can kind of maybe plough through that in November, hopefully, and then cast on something else that can kind of be in between knitting when I'm not doing Advents, because my plan is my Advent knitting to only require like a little bit each day. That's what I'm hoping for. But that's everything on those patterns. I think I've rambled quite a lot, so I will leave it there. But like I said, if you've got any pattern recommendations for these yarns, or just any kind of patterns you've really been enjoying, let me know in the comments below, because I can always do pattern recommendations. I know how to use the Ravelry like advanced search function. I just find there's so much on there that and you can't knit everything, so recommendations would be really wonderful. But if not, I hope maybe you got a little bit of inspiration, or you just saw some nice yarn, which is always nice. I will happily sit through videos where people just show off nice yarn. I could look at it forever. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're still watching, thank you for still watching. And like I said at the start, I do these every 2 weeks. So episode 13, unlucky for some, will be the next video in a couple of weeks. And we're kind of gearing up to Advent, and there's a couple more videos that will probably start coming out, probably after 13, that I'll start working on. Maybe they'll come out in December. So I'm going to do a bit of a yarn organisation and kind of clear out maybe a bit of a de-stash kind of thing when I've got some time off at the end of November. So I'm going to film that and I'll post that. And then I've also got a plan for like an Advent video that I film throughout December that will be posted at the end of December. So, I mean, don't hold your breath for that. That's like still 2 months away. So, but yeah, so a couple of other different videos to kind of round off the year and try some different things on the channel, because I've been really enjoying making these videos. So I'm excited to make different kinds. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be great. If you enjoyed and you think maybe I'll watch another one, subscribing would be wonderful as well. Got a bit of an influx of subscribers from the last one, which was nice. We're almost at 200 subscribers, which is quite a lot of people. It's starting to get to like more people than were like in my year at school, which is about as many people as I can imagine in my head at once. But thank you so much if you have subscribed. If not, click the subscribe button if you want. And if not, I will see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks. Bye.